Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video, I'm not just going to talk about one book. I want to talk about a number of books that I read in 2021. I'll be discussing 8 books in total. They'll be from different genres, some of them anyway, but each book in this video, I did rate 5 out of 5 on Goodreads in 2021. I wasn't doing YouTube book reviews at that time, but I would like to reread some of these so I could do a more in-depth book review in the future. The first book that I want to talk about is Desert Heat. It's written by J.A. Jance. I don't have a copy with me because it was a library book. It's the first book in the Joanna Brady series. So in this book, Joanna's husband is a deputy. He gets shot early on in this novel and she's called out to the scene. She gets a call from somebody her husband works with. Almost immediately, there are people who suspect that he committed suicide because there's evidence at the scene and they find elsewhere that points to him being a bit of a dirty police officer. They think he was involved in shipping drugs or helping people ship drugs into the US. Joanna is positive that this can't be the case. She wants them to investigate more and find out what's really going on, but nobody will. People are just too willing to believe that her husband is a dirty police officer. So she investigates. One of the reasons this novel was so good is because Joanna is an amateur. She doesn't know how to investigate a crime scene or a crime for that matter, but she's learning as she's going along and she's just pushing those boundaries and pushing the reader to go with her, and we feel everything that she feels. We feel her highs, her lows, her wins, her losses. Everything is written so well that we feel all that, and we can empathize with her so much because her character is written so well. Just like every other character in this novel, they're all written really well, and even characters that are the villains or characters that aren't always nice to Joanna, they're written so well, they're all believable, and they're all engaging. I did read another 3 or so novels in this series. It's quite a long series, and I do plan to go back and start from book 1 again and read them all, and I will do more in-depth reviews on each one as I go. The second novel that I want to mention is Blindsighted by Karin Slaughter. It was written, a few years ago, but it's the first novel in the Grant County series. I have read a few books from Karin Slaughter in different series that she's written. I find her a very powerful author. She's not scared to go into the gory detail, the gritty detail of crime scenes. In this series, it makes sense because the main character is an ME, and so we have to see things through her eyes, and how she investigates is by studying those bodies, those victims of crimes. So we have to see what the ME sees to understand the crimes and see how she goes about to solve the cases. So that's important, and Karin Slaughter, even though she gives us that detail, it's always important in the plotline. One of the main reasons I like this book, and I do like the Grant County series, is it has a lot of twists, and really good twists, and Karin Slaughter seems to be one of those authors that is able to throw them in throughout the book, scatter them throughout, and make them surprising, and make them believable as well. I did enjoy this series, the Joanna Brady series. I haven't read them all, but I do enjoy it more than the Will Trent series. I'm aware the Will Trent series has more books in that series, but I do prefer Grant County series to Will Trent. The next book I want to mention is The Night Walker, written by Sebastian Fitzek. It's the first novel I've read by this author, and it was brilliant from almost the first page. You get sucked into the action and the story straight away. It has such a great hook. So the main character, Leon, he is a sleepwalker. He was as a child. He thinks he was cured of it, but then he finds later on in his adult years he's sleepwalking again, and his wife goes missing mysteriously. No one knows what happened to her. He doesn't know if he's sleepwalking at the time, so what he does, he starts putting a camera on his forehead and filming himself at night where he's going, and then he reviews the tapes the next day. So we're drawn into what he's reviewing on those tapes, and I won't give any more away about it, but we're drawn along just an amazing storyline where the character doesn't know what he's seeing is real or if it's imaginary, and we don't know either as readers, so we're not given that information. we're only given what the character sees. And that's one of the amazing things about this novel, that through the whole novel, we don't even know if what we're reading is real in the book or if it's imaginary. It's an amazing novel. I do recommend this one, The Night Walker by Sebastian Fitzek. An author I discovered in 2021 is J.D. Barker. I discovered him through his co-author novel with James Patterson, and I enjoyed that so much I wanted to search out any other novels that J.D. Barker had written by himself. I found he had a trilogy, and it's a thriller suspense trilogy, and it centers around a character called 4MK, who's a serial killer. The first novel in this trilogy is called The Fourth Monkey, and it's just an amazing novel. The voice of the serial killer is really good. When I was reading it, I was just picturing a person or a character that was a cross between Raymond Reddington and Hannibal Lecter. That's how I pictured it in my mind. There are parts of this novel where we're reading a diary, a journal written by the serial killer when he was younger. Whenever I read those chapters, I was hearing Raymond Reddington's voice in my head. The action, the suspense, the twists, the characters, everything in this novel is brilliant. It made me just want to read the other two novels very quickly in this series. Of course, I got them all from the library, so I don't have it with me, but they are amazing books. If you haven't read any of J.D. Barker's books, I suggest you go out and read this trilogy. You won't be disappointed. I have to mention a novel by Tess Gerritsen, who is one of my favourite authors. She's written the Rizzoli and Isles series, and it's one of my favourite book series. I've read all the novels in the series. I don't have any on me. I can't show this one in the video. The ones I did own that I read, I've given to other people to read, and I got some from the library. The one I want to mention is Body Double. The reason I like this so much is that it brings one of the characters, Laura Isles, into some depths that she hadn't been before in the series. It centers around a body that's discovered, and the victim, the body, looks just like Laura Isles, and she's the ME in this book. They could be twins, and they do find out that they're related, that this victim is in fact her twin sister. That just takes the plot and this character on a really kind of dark journey in this series, and we find out so much more about the character, but it also brings some surprise characters into this book and into the series from then on. That's another element, another reason why I liked this book so much. The relationships between the two characters as well, the two main characters, Isles and Rizzoli, are really good. They don't start out as really good friends. They're kind of not sure of each other at the start of the series, but that friendship grows as the series goes on. And they're both very different characters, and they're written very differently as well in these books. So Tess Gerritsen has been able to create two very distinct voices, and we get different chapters from different points of view, depending on which character the chapter focuses on. So I think that's really clever and really well written. I want to mention a book that I read last year from Jeffery Deaver, who's one of my favourite authors. This is a standalone book. I know he writes series as well, but this book is called Edge. I love this book from just the first page. It drags you in, hook, line, and sinker, and it's unrelentless. It just doesn't stop. The pace is so good, the action's so good, everything about it is really good. There's twists, there's turns, they're all surprising. It's a very simple plot when you look at it overall. Basically, it's a man, an agent, who is protecting a family from being kidnapped and tortured. That's the main plot. He's trying to protect them, someone's trying to kidnap them, and they have this cat and mouse game going on throughout the whole novel. It's really cleverly done. It's one of my favourite books from last year, and I think Jeffery Deaver is just a master at characters and twists. In so many of his novels, the twists are all surprising and scattered throughout the novel. They don't bunch up at the end. I think this is a really good book, Edge from Jeffery Deaver. The next book I'll mention was a cozy mystery series that I started last year, and I think I've read maybe 3 or 4 in this series. I think I'm going to have to go back and start from book 1 again, which is the book I'm going to mention, because I just want to refresh my memory of all the characters before I go further on in the series. It's called Date with Death, and it's written by Julia Chapman. The things I liked about this novel are the characters are just so well written. It centres in a small town in the Dales in England, so we don't have a big area to deal with. And the characters are all very intertwined. We have some characters that have been there most of their lives or all their lives. One of the main characters, Samson, he's been out of the town for a long time. He comes back and he's kind of a black sheep in the town. A lot of people don't like him, but he comes back and he opens up a detective agency. The other main character, Delilah, so it's Samson and Delilah. So Delilah runs a dating agency in the Dales, so there's not many customers to deal with. And what's interesting is that Samson hires his office space from Delilah. She owns the building. So as the first mystery unfolds in this novel, Delilah kind of gets wrapped up in the mystery as well. She pushes her way in a way, and she helps Samson investigate. And we do find out that without her help, Samson wouldn't get to the conclusion when it solved the case. So we start to see that friendship develop between Samson and Delilah as well. And just all the other characters in this town, in the Dales, more a village really. They're so well written. It seems everybody has a history. The author's been able to put history for everybody as well. And we see all those relationships and those histories play out as well as the characters unfold for us and the story develops and unfolds as well. If you like cozy mysteries, I recommend this series. It's Julia Chapman, Date with Death, the first book in the Dales Detectives series. The last book that I'll mention is by another author that I hadn't heard of until 2021, Peter Laws, and the book is called Purged. I think there are a few books in this series. I read 3 in this series. I think there might be at least a 4th one that I haven't read. I'm not sure if there's any more. But this book is really fascinating and it hooked me in almost straight away. So the main character is an ex-minister, but he left that and now he's a sociology professor. But he's also still an expert in religions. He takes his family away on a vacation, and where they go, it's quite an odd town. There's a lot of crosses hanging around the town, and there's a very religious feel to most of the people in this community. When somebody goes missing, it sends some alarm bells in this main character's mind, and then somebody else goes missing. So he gets sucked in to trying to find out what's going on. He really gets pulled in by this mystery, and it's very dangerous for him and his family. He wasn't aware of how dangerous it was at the start, but it's very dangerous for them all. The author of this book, Peter Laws, is a minister himself. That's quite fascinating as well. I wouldn't have thought that a minister would write novels like this, the thriller suspense type novels. There are some religious overtones to this book. It's not preachy in any way. And in fact, the villains of the piece, they come across as almost religious zealots in this novel. And I don't know if the author himself is against religious zealotry, but it was interesting to see that a minister would have that spin on a novel like this, and that the villains would be religious zealots and still be villains. That was really fascinating for this novel. I do recommend Peter Laws' Purged. It's a really good book. I hope the brief descriptions that I've given for each novel has excited you enough to make you want to read them. I thought each of these novels was a really brilliant read. There are other novels in 2021 that were just as good, but I just didn't want to fit them all in the one video. I thought 8 was enough. If you're interested in any more of my book reviews of other novels, then go to my channel, and while you're there, why not subscribe? I've got a lot of novels on there in different genres. I'm sure you'll find something you'll enjoy.